Former United manager and ex-player olegunnarsolskjaer spoke with Gary Neville and Roy Keane about his time managing Manchester United. And here are the key points I got from what he said during that interview. The first thing he said was United had 2 chances to sign Erling Haaland. One was before he came to the club, and the second was when he came to the club. Before he came to the club, the summer before he came to the club, he said he rang up the club when Erling Haaland was in Molde, and he spoke to them about signing this player, and they insisted they have enough reports about him, and they were not interested in signing him, and they did not sign him. And then when he came to the club as the interim manager after Jose Mourinho was sacked, Erling Haaland had moved to Salzburg then, and had a 20 million euro release clause, and United still refused to sign Erling Haaland under him. So United had 2 chances to sign Erling Haaland. Of course, we could argue that even if Erling Haaland came to United, he might not be the Erling Haaland we are seeing right now. So they said everything happens for a reason, right? But of course, it just goes to show how useless, how stupid, how nonchalant, how inexperienced we were, or we still are, at signing players. Because this, apart from the fact that Ole is saying that he recommended Erling Haaland twice, Ragnick recommended multiple players, Julian Alvarez, Emmanuel Akanji, and we still did not sign those players. But now Ole is saying that he recommended Erling Haaland twice for United, and we did not do that. And the second thing he said, this is very, very important to note because this is about Cristiano Ronaldo. He said that, in a way, he regretted signing Cristiano Ronaldo. Because when we signed Cristiano Ronaldo, we had to change our style of play. It kind of disrupted our tactics and things like that. And I would agree with that because back then, when Ronaldo came, it was all about Ronaldo. Bruno gets the ball and takes a long shot to give Ronaldo. Dalot gets the ball. Anybody gets the ball. It's all about Ronaldo. And of course, in terms of playing as a team, it's kind of disrupted that. I will agree with that. But also, we could have not allowed Ronaldo to go to Manchester City. And one thing we would ask if Ronaldo has gone to Manchester City, what would have happened to United and Man City after these years? Of course, I'm not saying that it will be better than them, but like I said, everything happens for a reason. So it would have been. I'm quite curious to know what would have happened if Ronaldo had gone to Manchester City. But of course, we would have never allowed that to happen, and that's why we have to sign him. And according to Ole, signing him was he regrets that because it kind of disrupted the whole team and the dynamics of the team, his tactics and his style of play and every other thing. And of course, when Eriktenhag came and was benching Ronaldo, you all were insulting, shouting. Of course, Ronaldo is a world-class player, but Ten Hag saw this and decided to bench him or maybe use him as kind of like a bench player. And of course, that's an insult to Ronaldo, and it ended very poorly because Ronaldo did the interview and insulted the manager and blah, blah, and that was the end. But Ole regretting signing Ronaldo should give you an insight on why Ten Hag kind of benched Ronaldo and things like that. Another thing he talked about was players refused to be captain. We heard that he offered Paul Pogba and Marcus Rashford to be captains and he refused it. And he also said that some players were also scared of doing pre-match interviews. After wins or after losses, these players were scared to do interviews to avoid maybe lack of self-confidence or to avoid being insulted or lashed at by the fans. And he also said that this generation of players are like Gen Z. They're always on their phone, checking their social media. If they don't do that, their family is doing that, their agent is doing that. So one way or the other, it gets to them. They are very focused on what fans think about them, and they are heavily influenced by social media. And of course, we see a lot of players responding to fans who kind of insult them on the internet or post fake news about them to show you that these players kind of look at their phones. You see during the halftime break or before the game, you see players, everybody is on their phone checking Twitter, checking X or checking Facebook and things like that. So he is saying that these players are they are very much influenced by social media, the Gen Z generation, and for players rejecting to be captain in games was petty and very, very unprofessional. And of course, that's very true because these players definitely are not the sort of type of players that we would win anything with. So that's why they have to go. And that's why right now, what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer faced with these players, that's what Ten Hag is facing with these players. And of course, Ten Hag is the better tactician, better manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but they are still facing the same similar problem. Because also, Mourinho is a better manager than two of them. Louis van Gaal is also a better manager than Solskjaer. Maybe not better than Ten Hag, but they all faced, good or bad, they all faced the same problems with this same squad of set of players at the club. No structure at the club, and this is what happens with these players who are pampering and giving free money to play football at the club. And he also said about he also talked about how the structure of our transfer really work. You know, you recommend a certain player to be signed, and the approval has to go between lots of channels, and at the end of the day, your approval gets denied. Like, for example, the way he wanted to sign Erling Haaland, it has to go through Ed Woodward, the Glazers, the board, and blah, 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 blah. And maybe the Glazers do not want that transfer to happen, but Ed Woodward wants it, or the board wants it, and it end up not happening because there's not a uniform decision to be made. And it's really, 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 really poor. And I've seen evidences of that very well. He also said he wanted to sign Declan Rice from West Ham, but that also couldn't happen. He felt Declan Rice was the perfect player for the club, but that didn't happen. But the whole summary of Ten Hag's, of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's interview was the fact that the club was poorly run and the mentality of the players were really bad, and ultimately he failed. He failed. And that's why we're seeing Mourinho, who failed, came out years later to say that this club is not being run well. If I say the same, the club is not being run well. And Ten Hag right now, if Ten Hag is sacked in the coming weeks or in the coming months, a year later, 2 years later, Ten Hag is still going to come out and give this same interview about how poorly this club is being run. Because right here, right now, Ten Hag needs support, but the whole English media is against Ten Hag and wants him to be sacked. And yet, Ineos have not come out to back Ten Hag publicly or at least sack him. He's taking all the blame, he's taking all the backlash, and nothing is being said. You know, our next 3 games are against Liverpool, Brentford, and Fulham, I think. But we have really tough games coming up, and it is being said that if we don't, because we have two Premier League games coming up before the international break this month, 2 Premier League games and 1 FA Cup game. Basically, if we are being kicked out from the FA Cup, it means no chance of us winning the FA Cup anymore. And if we don't win those 2 games against, Everton and Brentford, if we don't win those 2 games against Everton and Brentford, that means top 4 race, Champions League spots, things like that is out of the case. Meaning we have nothing else to play for, just to finish up in the top 7 or top 8 position. That means that Ten Hag will definitely lose his job, because right there, right now, that would be totally unacceptable. Meanwhile, if we can finish top 4 and win the FA Cup, that will be viewed as, kind of a success. So it is a really pressing time for Ten Hag, because if he doesn't beat Liverpool and if he doesn't win both games in the Premier League, then he'll probably get the sack. But the Ineos group are not saying anything publicly to back Ten Hag, and it's being hung out to dry. Because right here, right now, nobody's complaining about, the English media are not talking about how bad the players are. They're only pressed on the fact that Ten Hag tactics is not good. He's not playing. The team is not playing well. Blah blah blah. But nobody is mentioning these players. They all care about Ten Hag. They all care about mentioning Ten Hag every time, but not the players. And this has to change, because if we don't lay out the blame to every part of the club, then ultimately we will fail. We will fail, because if you bring Pep Guardiola to this team, he can't do anything with them. You have to trash out all the players, trash out all of them, and bring in fresh new players. And that's what Ten Hag needs.